Alright, we're still covering panel-to-panel transitions. This is part 2, class number 4. We're talking about moment-to-moment. I showed you this, the spider moving through. Essentially the key with moment-to-moment is there are no more than a few seconds or even less happening between panels when you're talking moment-to-moment. Okay. Another panel-to-panel aspect, action-to-action. Now, action to action can be kind of confused as moment to moment because one might argue that, well, this is still moment to moment, and it's true. But the difference is that there's action occurring. So in this first panel, we have the baseball game, or the baseball coming towards the batter. He hits it. Action to action. Drinker, his reaction. Action to action. Car crash. Action to action. Action to action, simply put, is that one panel follows the other, resulting in an action. So in the panel-to-panel transitions, this would be your verb. Okay. We also have subject to subject. Now, subject to subject is a nice one because it means that the two pictures, or in this case, two or more, there's the one with 3 panels, the two panels relate to each other. The first panel, first example, now you die, person screaming no, no, and the scream over the dark and ominous city. That's effective because, number one, it's better than actually showing the killer hatcheting the victim, because the reader will almost always imagine worse than what you can draw. So when you try to gross someone out, it's so much easier to scare them by not showing it. So in this case, the subject to subject, nicely done. The second series, where they're waiting for a phone call and then the phone rings, it's subject to subject. So these are all related, they go together, but the images change. So if you were a movie director, you would have to set up the camera for the first shot and then move and reset the camera for the second shot, but they do go consecutively one after the other. Okay. Scene to scene. This is an interesting one. Because the time span between scene to scene can be anything. In this first example, we see 10 years exist between the two panels. It's irrelevant, the amount of time that passes in a scene to scene example. But scene to scene, what that tends to do is it locks 2 pages together. If you've taken classes with me before, you know that I'm a firm believer in the Walt Simonson method of ending a page on a scene. And that sounds a lot more complex than it is. All it means is that as Simonson draws his stories, if he has a scene that takes 3.5 pages, he makes it either a 3-page or a 4-page scene. So he has no half-page scenes. So that way there, if you need to take a scene and cut it, or move it, you can move it in throughout the story, you can put it at the beginning, put it at the end, you can alter it without altering the next scene. When you have 2 scenes on the same page, the problem is you're now marrying those 2 scenes. Those 2 scenes must be connected because they share a page. Sometimes you want that to happen, like in the example here at the top. He can't outrun us forever, and then 10 years later. There is no option for an insertion of another scene or moving one of these 2 scenes. Those 2 scenes are married together. The last section, no one could have survived that crash. Sniff, you're right. Meanwhile, guy's sitting on the island. So I guess he did survive the crash and enjoying a life of coconuts. So in those cases, they're married together, scene to scene. That works out if that's how you want to handle it. Right? Aspect to aspect. That means that the scenes are related, but they're not adjoining. So we get the kind of panoramic scene. So we have a shot of the Christmas tree, we have a shot of Santa outside. We have a shot of a bunch of trees with a sunny day, we have a person with sunglasses, and we have birds flying. We have a party, and we have an obnoxious drunk talking to a woman. Those are all aspects to aspects, but they're not necessarily connected. The way you would connect these is with dialogue. When we looked at that Frank Miller instance where we see the characters on the TV screen and then we go to the card game, That would be an example of aspect to aspect. They are related because of the dialogue. They flow together because of the dialogue. Non-sequitorial. Non-sequitorial, simply put, doesn't make any sense. We have a satellite flying in outer space, and then we have farm couple. So they don't go together, but sometimes in storytelling we want to do that. We want to kind of throw our reader. This is a good way to jar them. This is a good way to shake them up. This is a good way to keep your storytelling avant-garde, kind of wakes them up, because it instantly makes a reader, as they're reading across, go, what? And it's up to you to find a way to connect those. Again, usually with dialogue. Can be effective. It's also extremely advanced. Here's all of them put together. So when we see them, we have all of our scenes. Now your assignment this week is going to relate to this, so you're going to want to pull this up later on. It will be up on the blog, and you're going to try to carry through an example of moment-to-moment transitions. So that'd be this one here, moment-to-moment. As we're drawing these panels, next week we're going to talk about finding the shot. And finding the shot quite simply means, what do you show in the panel? Not always as easy as it sounds. Every example here is very straightforward. I'd say with the exception of maybe this one, where the character is cropped. We get the idea that they're in bed sleeping. But their shots are very much the first draft of what you would show when you were thinking. And there are ways to push it beyond that, because you don't want your storytelling to get boring. One of the ways around that is Wally Wood's 22 panels that always work. Wally Wood, if you don't know, was possibly the greatest comic book artist ever in the history of the medium. That'd be debatable, I would guess. By many people, I happen to agree. I think Wally was a genius. And he took this idea of 22 panels that always work. And what he's basically saying is, how do you show a variety of ways to make a boring panel less boring? And I like a lot of these. The extreme close-up I probably use way too often. The open panel I use quite a bit. Dark foreground is nice. All black is nice. This one's nice. I like the big object pointing at something smaller. This is a real favorite of mine. I like this too. L-shaped silhouette, that's this. So what that means is this is an L. We have a repeat of the motif of an L, silhouette. Same thing here. There's an L shape here, silhouette. That's a nice effect. Look at that. L shape here, silhouette. So you can see, even though we're not necessarily trying, you see a lot of L's, a lot of silhouette, a lot of L, a lot of silhouette. So it's a nice effect. It works really well. Contrast is a great way to set mood. I also like this kind of a shot. You can either do it as detailed or you can do it as silhouettes as well. It's just a way, if you take this, and what I would strongly suggest you do is that you print this thing out and you keep it somewhere near your drawing table so that you can refer back to it. Because as you're trying to come up with a shot, this is a great way to pull out, and great avenue to pull out and use as both inspiration and reference to try to mix it up. So if you're finding you have too many shots of just regular heads, taking a look at this will really help you to push it beyond that. Right? Part 3 in a minute. Thanks.